It's a really nice day to enjoy a cold beer. No bottle opener, of course. Alright, I know how to handle this. Iron Fist! That's a use of an immortal weapon. Hey everybody, Sexy Matt the Pharaoh Wizard here. So it's finally here, the final Defender and the first Marvel Cinematic property of 2017, Iron Fist. Iron Fist! So how does it stand up with the other Marvel Netflix shows? How does it stand up to the greater Marvel Cinematic Universe? Let's talk about it, let's find out. So as Marvel expands their universe, they're of course getting into more and more heroes that less people know anything about. So to give us some history on Iron Fist himself, please once again welcome the Comic Snob.
Oh, hello there. You want to know about Danny Rand, the Immortal Iron Fist? I'll tell you about him. Iron Fist first appeared in Marvel Premiere number 15 in 1974. And was created by Roy Thomas and Gil Kane. See, Iron Fist was created to play off the kung fu craze of the 1970s. Danny Rand's powers is that of the Iron Fist, which is the ability to channel his chi into his fist, making it near indestructible, as well as increasing his own personal strength, and he can also summon his chi to heal himself and other people. The origin of the Iron Fist is most unorthodox. See, Danny Rand was on an excursion with his family, as well as his dad's business partner, Harold Meacham. Now, Harold was a bit of a dick, and killed Danny Rand's father right in front of him. Now, Danny ran for protection, and crossed a bridge, and found it was the entrance to Kunlun, the fabled city. Now, Kunlun only appears once every 10 years. So, even though the monks took in Danny for safety, he had to stay in the city for 10 years, which then he began his training as a kung fu master. Now, during his training, he defeated the dragon Xiao Lao the Undying, which gave him that sweet dragon scar on his chest, as well as gave him the powers of the Iron Fist, which is the protector of Kunlun. Now once Kunlun reappeared, Danny ran to New York to exact his revenge for his father's death, and that's where he joined the Marvel Universe. Now, the Iron Fist has teamed up most notably with Luke Cage in Heroes for Hire. He's also part of the Defenders, the New Avengers, the Mortal Weapons, and the Thunderbolts. And now you know just a little bit about Danny Rand, the Iron Fist. Now, excuse me. Oh, Mark Millar, I love you, yet I hate you.
Thank you, Snob. So the plot of the Marvel Netflix Iron Fist show is Danny Rand, who was presumed dead in a plane crash, has returned after 15 years to reclaim his inheritance and to reconnect with his family in New York. And unfortunately, during this time, the evil Hand has returned to cause trouble. And you should remember the Hand as being a major proponent in Daredevil Season 2 and part of Season 1 as well, but mostly Season 2. So the Hand has returned and they're causing shenanigans. Without spoilers, that is Iron Fist in a nutshell. So let's talk about the characters. So we got the titular Iron Fist, Danny Rand, played by Finn Jones. Some of you might know as Loris Tyrell. And he does a fantastic job. I think he really understands Danny Rand. See, Danny, of course, is raised by monks, so he's not running around the streets, punching purse snatchers in the face. He's much more peaceful, much more calm, is only a warrior when he needs to be a warrior. On top of that, he was also raised by monks, so he has no, knowledge of the outside world, so he's very much a child. And Finn Jones very much balances that, monk status, but also a child, and many other things, and really understands and knows this character and is very believable as Danny Rand, and I very much enjoyed everything he did in this show, for sure. So joining Danny on his adventures, we have Colleen Wing, played by Jessica Henwick, also from Game of Thrones, who played Namira Sand. Weird, Game of Thrones reunion, I guess. Colleen Wing runs a dojo ran for inner city kids to help them get off the streets and build some confidence, as well as learn some martial arts skills and, self-protection skills. And she kicks major ass in this. Her action scenes are fantastic. She does a great job. You really cheer for her. She's really kicking some major ass. Very much enjoyed her. She had one hell of a plot thread throughout the series. Won't get too much into it for spoilers. But was very interesting and, really helped Danny out and, worked well as a love interest as well as, a bit of a sidekick and, could hold her own in a fight. She didn't have to be a damsel in distress. She also kicked some ass. So I very much enjoyed what she did. She's probably my favorite character of the entire season. And I really love what they did with her character arc. So from the origins, that the Meachams are a very big part of the Iron Fist mythos, and we have the Meacham family. So, of course, we have Harold Meacham, played by David Winham, or some of you might know as Pharaoh from Lord of the Rings. Meh. So Harold Meacham, of course, is Wendell Rand's business partner from way back when, and took over the company after the plane crash that killed, Danny Rand's family. And he does, a really good job. He is all over the place. You're not sure what he's about. He kind of keeps you guessing. I really like what they did. He's really hard to explain without getting into too many spoilers, but he does some really cool stuff. You can't get a grasp on what he's doing until the very end, and it's very cool. I like what they did with him. And we have Ward Meacham, played by Tom Pellephrey. I probably did that wrong. Anyways, so if you know from the comics, Ward Meacham is actually Harold's brother, but they changed it to his son in this show. Not a big change, not a big deal. Ward has probably the deepest story arc of all of them and has a huge shift in his character throughout the entire run of the series. He does some really cool stuff, and he's, again, someone you can't quite get a grasp on, and does some really cool things, and is very enjoyable. And finally, we have Joy Meacham, Ward's sister, played by Jessica Stroop. And she is hard to get a real grasp on as well. She's kind of a big deal in the beginning and sort of falls off in the middle and sort of comes back at the end. I don't know. Didn't leave much of an impression on me. She did good for what she was given, but I'm not sure they really explored her character very much. Yeah. And that's pretty much it for characters. There are a couple returning characters from other Netflix shows, but I won't give away who it is. So these are the ones I can really talk about without spoilers. So there you go. There's pretty much the characters. So what worked well about Iron Fist? The first thing I really enjoyed is how this ties into the other Netflix shows and how we're really building to the Defenders, which is the next Netflix show, which is like the Avengers, but on the street level. I'll explain it when we get there. But anyway, so, you get name drops of Daredevil. A lot of characters from Daredevil. Jessica Jones isn't officially name dropped, but you see characters from her show. Luke Cage is fully name dropped, and you get some hints of what he's doing right now. The Night Nurse, of course, is back and is in all of them. and some mentions of other things that happened throughout the other Netflix shows. And I like that. So we're really building up this universe, and they do interact with each other. And New York's not that big, so you're gonna run into some of these characters. So I really enjoyed that. One thing, I guess it's kind of good, kind of bad, I don't know, but the flow of the show, because each, obviously I sit down and watch these all in one run, 13 hours straight. And a lot of the Netflix Marvel shows start off with this big bang and then really dimper off and then kind of come back in the middle, dipper off, and have a big bang at the end. Iron Fist was more of a smaller, quieter start and then built up, and kind of got subsequently better with each show. And I think I kind of enjoy that a little bit better than getting this bang and then dwindle off, bang, dwindle off, and then bang at the end. I don't know. I kind of liked it, but I think that's where some of the complaints are coming from a lot of the reviews, is it does start very slow and then kind of gets better. But the main big thing that's very much enjoyable about this is the action. When Iron Fist joins the Defenders, him and Daredevil are going to have to spar because the action that is in this and the kung fu that's done is fantastic. Some great fight scenes that were well choreographed and did some really cool things. I really like the action and the fight scenes. It really calls back to the kung fu roots of Iron Fist, and I very much enjoyed that. And it was just done really well. When there was action, it was fantastic. The other thing that I liked is they kind of talked about magic again, which this being the first, property after Doctor Strange, it kind of links to that, being that, the way he talks about Kung Lun and how it shows up only every 10 years and how that works was really cool. I really liked that. And it was kind of a really cool follow-up to Doctor Strange and, how the magic works and things like that. And I like that. Now, I don't think it's much of a spoiler because the showrunner came out and said it, but we don't get the full Iron Fist costume. But there is a major hint to it in there, and I really liked what they did with it there. I can't wait to really see it. I hope we get it in Defenders. But I think the way they handled the costume worked well because where Iron Fist is at in his career, it makes sense that he doesn't have a costume. And they explained that really well, and I think it really fit, and what he wore during the show worked. And the tattoo or scar looked really good too to me, and I like that a lot. And the last thing I really liked about this is it kept the story very small. It never got to the point where you're like, where's Iron Man? Where's Luke Cage? Well, he's in jail. Or where's Daredevil? Like, it kept it very much Danny Rand's story and in revolving around Danny Rand. There are wider implications if he fails, but at this exact moment, it's just his story. And I think they did that really well, and it makes it fit better so you don't have to always be like, well, where's the Hulk? Why doesn't he join in? Where's this guy? So it works how it fits in this bigger universe, but in the smaller range. And I really liked how they handled that. But nothing is perfect, so where does Iron Fist fail? Contrary to what I just said, but it's my complaint about all these Netflix shows, is it doesn't connect to the wider Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I'm going to keep making this complaint until it's fixed. It takes place within all Daredevil and all that, and there's minor hints to the incident, which of course is the first Avengers movie, and there's a hint at the Hulk and a little bit of tie to Doctor Strange, kind of. It's stretching a bit. But really there's no talks of the Sokovia Accords or the events of Doctor Strange where a whole city was taken out by magic or, anything else going on. It's still done that way. Now, it's not as bad as Luke Cage, because in Luke Cage, it took place in Harlem where the climax of Incredible Hulk took place. So them not mentioning that at all was very frustrating. This one, because they kept it smaller, it wasn't as noticeable and frustrating, but I still personally want to see more ties to the bigger universe. Because when they all tie in and become the Defenders, eventually something's going to happen where you got to be like, hey, what about the Avengers and the Defenders? You got to tie this together, and I don't feel like they're building up as much of a groundwork for that as they could be. So that was my minor complaint. My major complaint is that this show is missing a antagonist majorly. Like I said, the Hand is the villain, and that's a problem because the Hand being a villain, being the group, it doesn't lend itself to having a single antagonist to give Danny Rand a drive for what he's doing. It kind of works, but they built up the Hand as too powerful. And, they have some of the leaders that are mentioned and, are brought in throughout the show. But it feels like even if you take those guys out, you're not taking out the whole Hand. And it's really tearing for me, but there wasn't one central conflict where you're like, yeah, this is going to be the major, this is the problem. Here we go. There's just not that antagonist, and there's not that antagonist moment. And that was very disappointing and really hurt the show. Now, I think they're really building up to the Hand being the major villain in The Defenders, from what we've seen in Daredevil Season 2 and this. And I kind of like how they're building up to that, but it kind of hurt this show being that there was no end game. There was no villain to be beat. It was just sort of trying to take down the Hand whenever possible, and it didn't feel like it was going to be accomplished. So that was a major hurt of this show, is you didn't get that one major villain. The other problem is twofold, but there was like a split storyline. There was the Iron Fist and Hand, magic and kung fu storyline, and then there was Danny Rand and the Rand Corporation storyline. And the interesting stuff was in the Iron Fist, and the boring business talk was in the Rand Corporation, but they kept doing both these storylines. They didn't tie together very well. And, after a cool action scene, then you're talking about business, and you're like, I don't care, just punch somebody. And I think that was it made the show run slower and hit some really dull moments. And I guess it was sort of needed, but it hurt the show. It felt very dull, having this business thing tied with these great action scenes. And it didn't quite mesh, and it brought down the show a lot. So enough bashing it. Let's get into some spoilers. So go ahead and click the Iron Fist logo here to skip to my wrap-up, but I'm going to get into some spoilers now. So although I just said it was dull, Iron Fist does have a lot of twists that keep it interesting enough. The fact that Madame Gao shows up from, all the Daredevil stuff as the leader of the Hand was cool, and what they were planning with her. Building up to Danny Rand's origins was pretty cool, and I don't know, I'm torn on, because you don't get the straight origin story, and you don't really see his full origin. And I kind of like that as a kind of, tongue-in-cheek, kind of hinting thing. But I also really wanted to see a goddamn dragon and him fight a dragon, and we don't see that. But yeah, the twist of, Colleen Wing actually being in the Hand and not really knowing she's in the Hand was pretty cool. The thing about Harold Meacham not being able to die, and every time he does die, he gets worse, was really cool. And I really liked how he kind of assumed at a certain point that he thought the Hand was responsible for his plane crash and killing his parents, and you get at the very end it was actually Harold, tying back to the original origin. And so that was pretty cool, like a little twist on a twist, and it kind of kept it interesting on the twist side, and I like that a lot. As you can see, there was minor changes to the origin. Instead of Harold just throwing, Walter off the, or Walter or Wallace, whoever, off the cliff, it was a plane crash. And I think that's a little bit better of an origin. And him just, Harold just setting up the plane crash rather than, actually killing him in front of his kid, made for a more interesting story and a lot less, revenge driven on Danny's side. So I like that a lot. So I think that was well done. A lot of the spoilers kind of worked out, and I like what they did. On top of it being dull, though, of course. But let's wrap this up. I think that's enough spoilers. So overall, it was pretty good, but it wasn't mind-blowing. You know, Jessica Jones, Daredevil, and even Luke Cage had moments where I'm like, yeah, this is awesome, and I can really get behind this. This one had some really cool fight scenes and some really cool moments, but the amount of dullness interlaced with that really hurt it. And, you know, I kind of struggled to say this might be the worst Marvel Netflix show. But it's hard to say because it does tie a lot into its kung fu roots, and Danny isn't a character that's running around punching big action thing. He's a lot more torn and interesting character. So you get a lot more character moments, but it's a lot harder to get through in one sitting. So maybe as a show where you watch just a couple at a time, it might be a little bit better. But for me, watching it 13 hours, it felt like a real drag. And it's a lot more akin to Daredevil Season 2 rather than, you know, like Daredevil Season 1. That being said, what Finn Jones did with Iron Fist is great, and I think he's a great addition to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The show as a whole, it's good, and, you know, if you're sticking in with this whole universe, you should definitely watch it. It adds some, you know, great, you know, stories to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but it is a little bit of a rougher show and not quite as fulfilling as Daredevil or Luke Cage. But I really like how they're building up to the Defenders. I like Iron Fist as a character, and I think it's done well, and it should be watched. I think you should definitely give it a shot. Again, it gets better with each subsequent episode, so you gotta kind of keep going with it, even if the first 2 or 3 episodes are a little boring, a little rough to get through. So there we go. That's Iron Fist. What do you think? Leave it in the comments below. Hit that thumbs up. And I'm Sexy Matt the Pharaoh Wizard. Until next time, hold on to your hold slots.